to a single measure. You are combining many number of management measures for you to be able to achieve what could be maybe achieved by one process. For example, if we were to do like fumigation will be able to take care of all the pests that are in that in that consignment. But still, you can put quite a number of measures together for you to be able to achieve that particular alternative that you have, like fumigation. And as I'd mentioned, these are the measures that we put right away from the production to the exit point. And the system also integrates measures to meet phytosanitary import requirement in a manner that will be able to assure the trading partners that indeed our system has worked and there's no risk of us introducing that harmful organism into their space. Now, it also considers a combined effect of different conditions and procedures. Once you put all these things together, what is the effect of it? The moment you are putting it now for you to be able to work on it. Now, the system approach will also consider what happens before and after all these measures have been put in place. Now, the system approach will also provide an opportunity to consider, as I'd mentioned, both pre and post. And this will have to contribute to an effective management of this particular pest that you are considering or pest of concern. Now, what are some of the characteristics of a system approach? One is that a system approach is a little bit complex because of the many measures that you need to put in place and you need to understand them. And another character is that you simply combine independent measures known to be effective to more complex and precise systems such as critical control point systems. Now, the independent measures are the measures that do not depend on anything. Now, critical control points will identify and evaluate points in a pathway where specific risk can be reduced and monitored. Now, from your production site all the way to the end, to the exit point, what are these critical points that you've identified that you need to take action? You need to put measures in those particular critical control points. In that the moment you put those measures in those critical control points, you are able to monitor and reduce the risk of you having the pest in the final product, or the risk of you introducing that pest in the other country. So you need to look at these critical control points as one of the key areas that you need to be considering as measures, as you put together your measures to be able to mitigate against the introduction of the pest. Now, we may use a quantitative or qualitative method or a combination of both. In quantitative, this is where you look for the suitable, you need data and you need to monitor. And in qualitative is where you just make your estimate, you make your judgment. From whatever that you are doing, what is your judgment? Is it able to reduce by 10%? Is it able to reduce by 20%? While in quantitative, you are using your data. This is the evidence that you have And this is the evidence that we are always asking all exporters during that monitoring of FCM, do you have the data? Do you share the data? You need to share that data every week for us to be able to say that indeed this system is working or this system is not working, and this particular critical control point need to be enhanced, or this particular one is not a critical control point, so we need maybe to reduce it now just to a control point. So all these things need to be considered, and they are very key characteristics in our system approach. Now, in a system approach, all measures that you put in place have to be monitored, and there are measures that can also be corrected. All these things that you put in place, they are things that you can be able to evaluate individually. What is their impact in your system approach management system? Now, in the system approach, you require 2 or more measures that are independent of each other. And we'll be seeing examples of this as we go along. And also, they may include any number of measures that are dependent on each other. Now, the other characteristic is that an independent measure may be composed of several dependent measures. You might have quite a number of them. For example, your greenhouse integrity might be independent. And out of that, there might be a number of them, a number of dependent that will guide you on that particular one. So an independent measure may be composed of several dependent measures that you might need to consider as you are implementing your system approach. Now, measures used in system approach may be applied, as I'd said, before or after post-harvest. Now, as KEPHIS, we have the ability to oversee and ensure compliance of phytosanitary procedures. Just the way we continue coming to your farms, and we did it before you were given the code. That was the pre, and also the post-harvest. So when we come to your farms, we are doing a pre-harvest, and we are able to monitor that one. That's why we need to look at your place of production. We need to look at what measures are you putting during that phase of producing your flowers. After you've produced your flowers, what are the measures that you are putting in place to ensure that in case there was a leakage in the first control points, what else are you doing? At the packing, at the pack house, what measures are we putting in place? And of course, also during the shipment, do we have anything that we are going to put in place that will contribute to ensure that there's no cross-contamination in case there was a product that had this particular pest? Now, examples of these components of system approach, we have post-harvest disinfestation, where you are able to treat your flowers after you've harvested, maintaining the integrity of lots. What you've harvested, are you able to maintain it to remain clean without any infestation after you've already harvested? We have maybe requiring pest-proof packaging. How are you going to package so that at the end of the day, your produce is not reinfested with some pest? Screening of packing areas, that your pack house where you are doing your packing, how do you normally treat your flowers? Are you able to screen them so that by the time it's leaving, you are sure that they are clean. Designated harvesting or a shipping period. At what time do you normally do your harvesting? Use of resistant host. Do you have a host that can be able to resist this particular pest? For example, here in rose cut flowers, we can talk about, do we have the varieties that are not susceptible to crown gulls, agrobacteria? As you all know that agrobacteria is also another another host that can be able to hide many of these pests. The surveillance in your greenhouses, the surveillance in your farm. How do you do your surveillance? Are you able to monitor? Are you able to know the levels of the pest in your farm, whether they are going up or going down, and which direction of your farm do you have most of these pests being more than the other parts of the farm? So you need to carry out the surveillance of your farm as part of the system approach. Trapping of this pest. How do you do the trapping of the pest? Sampling. How do you carry out your sampling during harvest, before harvest, and after harvest, during grading? How do you normally carry out your sampling for you to be able to do the monitoring and check and put checks on this particular pest? We have the cultural practices. What are the practices that we put in place that can be able to manage this particular pest? For example, weeding. Do we have weeds in our farms? Do we have weeds around our greenhouses? How do we collect the plant debris around our greenhouses? How do we dispose them? Crop treatment. How do we spray? How do we use the chemicals to control? And of course, now the inspection. How do you do your own inspection to regulate yourself? How does KEPHIS carry out the inspection to be able to ensure or to assure that the system approach is still working? Quality control. How are QC placed? Are they knowledgeable enough for us to be able to say that if I put this particular on this quality control area, then it can assure us of getting best results? Now, the minimum requirement for a measure to be considered as a component for a system approach that is clearly defined. And I think this one we've been able to define them clearly in our protocol. And efficacious. How effective is that particular system that you've been put in place? How effective is that control, that critical control point that we put there in place? And of course, now we require to make it more efficient, as we've already done it, and we can be able to monitor everything that is happening in that particular system. Now, just to give you examples of those independent, dependent, and we have some measures that are compensating. If you go to the greenhouse integrity, of which we put a lot of emphasis, and maybe next time we might need just to take you through how we evaluated and reached to a point where we said now greenhouse integrity is key to us. Now, what are the dependent measures on this greenhouse integrity? We have the double doors, we have the side netting, we have the greenhouse cover. So you find that when you combine this, they'll make the greenhouse integrity to be independent. And that's why we had mentioned that an independent measure will also be composed of a number of dependent measures that you put in place. Now, when you have your greenhouse integrity, that integrity is high, you have some, you put the nets, you put the covers, so that there is no easy entry of this FCM. Then you look at, yes, in my greenhouse, what are some of the measures that are going to give me some compensating measures? Sanitation. If there are debris in your greenhouse, how are we clearing them? So that sanitation compensates what happens in the greenhouse. Maintenance procedures. When my cover is torn, what do I do? How long do I take to be able to rectify or to fix those torn greenhouse covers? So that maintenance procedure is compensating. Then we have covering of the top vent. Covering of the top vent is not mandatory. But if you look at it, can it be an entry point, that top vent? Can it be an entry point of an FCM? So what can we do? If we cover that particular top vent, can it also compensate and give more weight to our greenhouse integrity in terms of managing of this particular pest, FCM? We have the pest management as an independent. How do we manage our pest? And what are some of those items that now this independent will be composed of or will depend on? We have the scouting. In pest management, if we do not do scouting, then I can assure you, you might not be able to manage any pest because you'll not know the levels in your farm. You'll not be able to make decisions on how to manage that particular pest. The chemicals that we use, are we using the right chemicals that will be able to control or manage this particular pest? Monitoring using our traps. How do we carry out the monitoring? Then do we have the capacity in our own farms? So you find that scouting, chemical monitoring, and also the capacity of our staff will make our pest management to be independent. So our pest management will also depend on these particular items. So it will be composed of scouting, chemical sprays. We have the monitoring of the pest FCM using our traps. Now, what are some of the compensating measures that we look at? We have the communication. Yes, I've done my scouting, I've done my spray, I've done my monitoring. How do I communicate? If I do my scouting, I've done my monitoring, and I do not communicate on the levels of the pest in the farm, then no action will ever be to be taken. So communication also becomes key in terms of relaying the information for us to be able to manage the pest. Data collection. How do we maintain our data? Are we able to use our data to inform us on how the trends of that pest is in our farm? Risk profiling. How do I profile my varieties in the farm? Which variety is more susceptible? Which one do I normally have more catches of FCM on? So you also need to profile. So the moment you're able to profile your varieties, then you'll be able to put the right measures to be able to control FCM on that particular variety. Traceability. Am I able to know where this particular flower is coming from? Am I able to know where this particular variety, which bed in that particular greenhouse, I find this variety? The biological measures that we put in place, the cultural measures that we have in place, those trapping, and of course now training. Why do we say that training is a compensating measure? You'll find that if your capacity is not good enough, you've not empowered your team to be able to identify the pest. to be able to know the right measures that they are supposed to take whenever there's a detection of a particular pest, then you need that training. You seriously need that training so that we can have that capacity to be able to know at this particular time, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is the pest of concern. I'm able to identify that pest, and I'm able to identify where do I have to check for that particular pest when I have my plan. Do I have to check, for example, do I need to check at the sepal or at the petals or on the stem? So you need that training, and training now becomes a compensating measure to pest management. We have the quality control in the pack house, and handling of non-compliance material will be a dependent measure that you need to take. What are some of the compensating measures in the pack house? It's about the sampling. What are the sample quantities, or what is the sample size that I do have to be able to give me confidence that my quality control in my pack house is good enough to mitigate against the pest of concern. We have the risk profiling. Just as the way we have done it in the field, you also need to do the risk profiling of the same in your pack house. The moment you get the flowers in your pack house, are you able to profile them and know these are the this particular variety, I need to give it more attention than the other. This is a variety that has given me more problem, so I need to give it more time. How do you do your risk profiling? So that risk profiling becomes a compensating measure to your quality control. Exit point inspection. We check at the integrity of the consignment. We look at the consignment compliance. We look at the documentation and, of course, handling of the non-compliance material. And what are some of the compensating measures that we have in place? At the exit point, the inspector still do risk profiling of your flowers based on what they have been able to detect. If particular flowers have been detected with FCM has been detected on particular varieties, so that particular variety, regardless of where it is coming from, it's normally risk profile. We also look at the traceability. Looking at your invoices, looking at your documentation, am I able to trace back to your farm? And of course, now the sampling, we are guided by ISPM number 31, which gives us the regime under which we are supposed to be sampling. Now, we have the audit as also independent measure. We have the pack house audit, we have the production system audit, and we have the exit point systems. If you look at your pack house, an inspector will come and be able to evaluate your pack house, whether the measures that are in the pack house are good enough to mitigate against FCM. They look at your production site, and we have a checklist for the pack house. We have a checklist for the production site, and you'll be taken through and asked many questions, checking on the integrity of your greenhouse, checking on how the traps are distributed, checking on how all the measures that you are supposed to put in place at that particular production site are in place. And of course, now we look at how you've been able to risk profile, and risk profiling of production site or greenhouse will depend on your varieties, will depend on the greenhouses, because there are some greenhouses that maybe you are neighboring a big plantation of a host, for example, like a coffee plantation. The greenhouses that are bordering that host, you find that those ones at that your production site, you might say that these are the high risk greenhouses for me because they are bordering other host to FCM. Then, of course, we have the traceability and we have the sampling that you need to look at. So those are how you're going to evaluate your measures and how you're going to look at the system approach as a whole. Now, if I may give you now maybe just scenarios just to make you to understand more. Let's say, for example, greenhouse integrity. I'm looking at the double dose. And greenhouse integrity, what will it rely on for it to succeed? So I've already explained this particular slide, so allow me just to skip it so that I go, for example, now in your pack house. What in your pack house? Quality control. Intake, is it a critical control point to you? Online, is it a critical control point to you? The final QC, is it a critical control line? For example, at the intake, what is your minimum sampling of that particular lot that has come? In case there's non-compliance, in case you reject, what are the measures that you're going to put in place? Are you just going to leave it there? Then after that, you look at the follow-up action. After you've rejected, what are the follow-up action that you're putting in place for you to be able to take care of that particular non-compliance? So non-compliance does not necessarily need to come from exit point when KEPHIS detects, neither does it have to come from EU, but you can have non-compliance, internal non-compliance in your own farm. At the intake, what have you detected? If that has been detected, it means the other critical control points did not function well for it to get to that particular point. So you'll need to put measures in place as a follow-up to be able to address so that in future, that particular pest is not again detected at the intake. Online QC, in case it passes the intake QC, now it goes to those one in the production, when they are now doing the packaging. And for example, an FCM is detected and there is a rejection inside the pack house. What measures do you need to put in place? So you need to consider that. And also your final QC. Your final QC should be treated more or less like the way KEPHIS we do. Once they reject, then you need to do a lot of root cause analysis for you to be able to find what really happened that I was not able to take care of that particular pest in all my critical control points. So you need to have an action plan in every non-compliance term you get within your own farm. Now, as I finish, what does the system approach for FCM management process in ROCES mean to all of us? Number one is that business will not be as usual for all of us. KEPHIS, we've changed on how we do things in terms of managing FCM on ROCES, and I'm sure all growers have changed on how they are doing their business in the production side and even when they are transporting. So business is not as usual. Number two, it means to us that the training to inform and retool you for the operational changes will have to continue and continue. Like what we are doing today, we'll continue reminding you about the system approach every time so that we maintain this market, so that we get it right. Where we've relaxed, we can be able to remind ourselves and be able to go back and enforce. Number three is that the minimum and mandatory management measures have been described to us through our checklist that we were able to share and through the entire protocol document that we were able to share. And for anyone who has not, who does not have a copy of that protocol and is in the production, kindly request and we'll be able to share with you immediately after this particular meeting. Now, one thing that all of us are aware is that regulatory measures are now tougher. They are very, very tough. And if we relax, they'll get tougher than they are today. So there's no time for us to relax. We need to proceed and ensure that the protocol is implemented. And do not just limit yourself to the protocol. If there is anything that you can do more than what has been spelled out in the protocol, kindly go ahead and implement and also inform us so that we can enhance the protocol to ensure that all measures are giving us good results. They are effective. Now, the other thing is that a failure of the system approach means more restrictions, means that it's going to be more expensive for a grower or an exporter because you'll have more time to invest. You'll need to invest more money and, of course, human resources for you to be able to bring the system back to functioning. And there are more measures that might be coming later that might be more prohibitive. Because the moment a pest will be detected in our consignments, then it means we might be forced to put more measures that might be more prohibitive as long as they'll be more effective and we'll be able to maintain and secure our market, and also they'll be able to make us expand our rose cut flower export to the EU. Competition is very high and we must comply. We are not the only one who are supplying to the EU. There are other countries that are also supplying. And the moment we relax and our space is taken, we might not have enough time to come back and redeem ourselves. So there's no time that we need to relax because the competition in that market, you all know it's very stiff. And it also tells us that being responsible and working together as an industry, as stakeholders, is key to us. We have KEPROBA, we have KEPS, we have you stakeholders, we have KEFIS, we have AFA. We all need to take, we all need to be responsible and work together. Now, apart from the EU, I believe all of us have already received the communication from Korea, the one that is also asking us on how we are going to manage FCM on rose cut flowers because they're also worried. So if that trend continues, you might find that now all our market destination for rose cut flowers, they might end up demanding for the same. How are you managing the FCM? So it's high time that we take the protocol very seriously. We implement the protocol to the last point, and we ensure that our flowers are free of any pest. Apart from FCM, we also facing the same restrictions on due to threats that are being detected in Russia. So Russia are also demanding that we need to give them the measures that we have put in place for us to be able to mitigate against all pests of concern to them. So you can see the system approach will be able not only to address the FCM, but will also be able to address all other pests of concern to all our destination market if it is fully and well implemented by all growers. Now, I'll not dwell on that. So thank you so much for your kind attention, and allow me to stop sharing at that point and get it back to Isaboke. Paris, tafadhali, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eric, for that detailed presentation. And I hope our stakeholders are learning because this is very important. Compliance with SPS measures is very important in market access, especially for the European market. This is also an opportunity for um, uh, investors or businesses that want to venture into the horticulture sector to understand some of the issues that affect the market and to prepare themselves to build capacity about so apologies for that. I hope you can see me now and hear me. Thank you. So I'm just thanking Mr. Eric Were for delivering that detailed presentation. And I was saying that it's an opportunity uh, for investors in this sector, the floriculture sector and the horticulture sector, to learn and be able to build capacities around FCM, especially if you are targeting the EU market. It's very important that we take note of that. I want to reserve the question and answer session at the end of this presentation. We have another presentation from Kenya Bureau of Standards so that we can have a session to respond on all the issues that you have. I am also encouraging participants to type their questions in the chat section so that we can go through them one by one, and we make sure that we respond to all the questions that are raised. At this point, I want to ask Mr. Eric Were to stop sharing his screen so that we can allow Akeb's presentation to come in and to continue. So we have Madam Louisa from Kenya Bureau of Standards, who will be presenting on issues to do with standards, specifically packaging and labeling when you are looking at the European Union market. I will ask Ms. Louisa to share her screen and to proceed with her presentation. Louisa?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lisa from Kenya Bureau of Standards. I'm just going to share my screen shortly.
So Louisa, we can see your screen. We can see your presentation. Kindly put it into slide mode. Then you take it up from there. We'll also request you to open your camera so that we can see you.
Okay, I've actually tried to open my camera,
Okay.
but I don't know what is happening to it.
Okay, no problem. Just carry on.
Okay. So my name is Louisa Okanda Makoha. I'm a senior quality inspection officer at Kenya Bureau of Standards, and I'm doing a presentation on the applicable standards. So I'm doing a presentation on the applicable standards and the packaging requirements in the flower sector. So just a brief overview of the KEBS regulatory framework. So KEBS is actually anchored on the Standards Act, CAP 496, which basically establishes KEBS as the national body that is responsible for the preparation and implementation of standards for all products. And these products, basically all the products in the country and in the world, but I'm tying it down to now the horticultural products. And also KEBS, under the Standards Act, it also provides a legal framework for the development, promotion, and application of standards in the country. Our mandate, number one, is for the standardization services. So we basically develop the standards in line with the stakeholders. We harmonize and adapt standards to be able to reduce any trade barriers that can be able to promote market access. Then conformity assessment services, we're able to ensure that all the products are able to conform to these standards that you have set, so that they're also safe to the user and safe to the end consumer. The other one is facilitation of trade. This is now through the standards that are developed. Then information services, we have standards that you can be able to purchase them from our online website and web store. Then for the training and education, we have a mandate to be able to train our stakeholders, to train the manufacturers, to train the consumers. An example is the training that you're doing today, to be able to ensure that you have knowledge on the standards in line with the product that we are tackling today. So what is now the importance of flower export to the Kenyan's economy? So number one, it's a major contributor of foreign exchange earnings, in that when you're able to export flowers, the income that is earned, the government can be able to use it to be able to ensure that even the services that it's offering, the flower is able to contribute to it. Then the other one is employment opportunities that are linked directly to this flower. So you find that the people who are working on these flower farms, there are people working on the pack houses, and also indirectly also related industries like the transport. The person will be able to transport the flowers from maybe the pack house to the market, or from the pack house to let's say if it's JKIA supposed to go to the EU market. And also the people in the expo logistics, there are a lot of people that are going to be employed in this logistics in terms of the clearing and forwarding of this consignment that is supposed to be exported. Then also in economic growth, that flower has also contributed to the economic growth of the country. Then also global influence, there's a significant market share when it comes to these flowers. So when you talk about good agricultural practices, because it's an agricultural product, so it has to be taken into consideration during the growth process of these flowers. So gap in the flower farming is very crucial to ensure high quality products, and also reducing any issue related to the environment, and also meeting the international market standards. So the global GAP certification, you can be able to get it if you're a flower farmer. You find that it may also required for export to the EU market and also high-end markets. And Kenya also has GAP that is aligned with these international standards. So why GAP? Because you find that when it comes to GAP, it focuses on various areas. Number one, it focuses on the safe pesticide use and withdrawal period. It also focuses on the proper irrigation and water management. Are you using clean water, or are you using water that has been contaminated? you find that if you use clean water, also it will ensure that you have a very high quality product and your product will stand out in the market. Then also post-harvest handling to prevent contamination. How are you handling these flowers after you have harvested them? Because you find that if you're handling them in an environment that is contaminated, or if you don't handle them well, you're going to affect the product, and your product will not be able to stand out in the market. So in the end, your brand will not be recognized as a brand that people will be able to look after. Then the other one is worker hygiene and traceability. You find that any worker that is working in this flower and in your pack house, or any worker that is working, or any employee, what is their hygiene? Are they sanitizing their hand? Are they ensuring that they don't contaminate the product? Because you find if the worker hygiene is not dealt with, this will affect the way the product is handled. Then so the this GAP practices, it focuses on the flowers, as I had mentioned, and examples, it might be like the roses, the lilies, and the carnations. So it is really important because we find that it may be able to be, the GAP certification is often a prerequisite for export, especially in Europe. So as I had mentioned, that KEBS is a standards body, and we have various standards that go in line with the floriculture sector or the horticulture sector. So one of the standards we have is the KES EAS. It's an East African standard that is harmonized to ensure that there is trade within the East African region, and this does not only limit it to the East African region, but it's also recognized internationally. So we have the cut flowers and cut foliage, which is the KES ES1 of 2022. So I find that this standard has been able to separate these flowers in 3 categories. So we have the grade 1 and grade 2 and grade 3. So you find that what are the requirements for this specific standard? So you find that you are required to ensure that your flowers are free from mechanical and physical damage. You also need to ensure that these cut flowers and cut foliage are also free from foreign matter. Then the correct harvest or the bud stage. Then also free from any growth disorders, and free from any chemical strain. Then for the fresh kauli flowers, the standard is the Kenyan standard 1544 of 2017. So that one is specific to kauli flowers. We also have other standards that are specific to the specific flower. If it's roses, also has its own standard. Then we also have another standard, which is the KS 1758 Part 1, which is the Code of Hygiene in the it's the horticultural industrial practice. So you find that for this standard, basically talks about the hygiene and safety requirements during the production, handling, and marketing of flowers and ornamentals. And apart from that, it also ensures the safety of workers and the consumer or the end user in the industry. So you find when the KS 1758 was being developed, it not only looked at the Standards Act, it also looked at other acts or other government or other laws that had been developed, like the Water Act, the Pest Control Products Act. So all these acts were looked into when now they were developing this standard. And as Mr. Were from KEPHIS had talked about how the pack house should be, you can find that all these things, and maybe the aspects of the quality control, all these things are also handled in the horticulture code of practice. Then we talk about labeling and packaging requirements, because it's very key that your flowers are well labeled when they are going to the EU market. So when you look at the standard for cut flowers and cut foliage, the KS AS2 86 Part 1 of 2022, it says that each package of the fresh cut flowers should be labeled legibly. And the label should contain the following information. So number 1, it should clearly indicate the name and address of the producer, the exporter, and you can also have the trademark. That can be your brand name that is identical to you as a trader, or to you as now the owner of the product. Then the name of the producer, or the trademark should also be indicated. Then also the country of origin, you can clearly indicate that it's a product of Kenya. Then the grade, as I also indicated that we have the 3 grades, we have grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. So you need to indicate your specific cut flower. Is it grade 1, is it grade 2, or is it grade 3? Then also the size. We have a chart for the length code, so you need to indicate the size. Then the number of bunches or the number of stems that the specific flower has. Then the traceability, because traceability is actually really key when it comes to packaging. So you need to indicate for traceability codes, you need also to ensure that it has the date of packaging, the variety that you have, and also the batch number. So you see that failure to meet these labeling requirements, it can lead to the export rejection at the border points. So you need to ensure that your flowers have all this information that is very legible, and for one to be able to read and ensure that your products can be able to leave Kenya and go to the next country. Because if you don't have this, if you don't meet this requirement, that it means that you're not going to export your product to the same countries. So for the secondary packaging, the standard clearly indicates that you need to ensure that your product is in a corrugated fiberboard or boxes. So for the general packaging, we also have a standard, which is the Kenyan standard, East African standard 865 of 2017. So it says that these fresh cut flowers should be packed in fiberboard boxes in accordance with this standard. And what is the general requirement of these corrugated fiberboard boxes? So it shall not, the corrugated fiberboard used, it shall not be cracked or delaminated or wrapped or creased. So the outer lining should be hard sized and should have good printing. Then the lining should be firmly glued to the fluting. Then also the face of the box should not contain visible defects like tears, punctures, holes, and it should not also wrap or budge, because now if it doesn't meet this if it doesn't meet this standard, and maybe you have reached at the border point, or maybe at the point whereby you want now to clear and forward your consignment to the next country, if the inspector officer notices that maybe your box is wrapped, or maybe it has defect like tears or puncture, then your product will not be able to be allowed to leave the station and go to the next country. So also in line with the same standard, each box in the whole consignment, every box in that consignment should be legibly and ideally marked with the following information. So it should also contain the manufacturer's name, the physical address, or the registered trademark, then the month and the year of the manufacture, then the combined grammage, then the country of manufacture, let's just put it as the country of origin, and the batch number or the code. So it's important to always ensure that the packaging material meets this standard and it's of acceptable quality. Because if it's not of acceptable quality, then again, you're going to be, the product will not be able to leave the station and go to the next country. Then now the corrugated fiberboard boxes for export of the horticultural produce, the KS 948 of 1999 also states that the aim of this standard basically is to assist the buyer of these boxes in getting the right corrugated box, and to guide the manufacturer in producing the quality boxes. So this standard basically outlines the general and the specific requirements, such as grading and construction. So the same thing, the box should be legibly marked with the date of manufacture, the month, and the year. Then in that order, so it also should ensure that it has the name and the physical address of the registered trademark. Then the total combined grammage, the name and address or the trademark of the customer, then the name and the nature of the produce to be contained in the box, and the country of origin. So ensuring the compliance for Kenyan flour exports. By implementing of the existing standards and the code of practices, it ensures that there is enhanced traceability and farm certification. Because as I had mentioned in my presentation, for traceability, when you have the date backings correct and you have the batch coding correctly, you can be able to trace your produce up to the farm level. Then also training and capacity building, because when it comes to trade and when it comes to any agricultural produce, training and capacity building is a continuous process. So you find that whenever there's any training, KEBS is always at a beck and call, ready to be able to ensure that information on the said standards in the specific product is passed on to the stakeholders. And if there's a change, let's say in a standard, you and KEBS together with any stakeholders will come together and ensure that the standard that is set is in line with the international standard, like the ISO standards. Then also regulating the pest control product, monitoring and compliance assurance. Then the key thing also ensuring that any label or any product has the proper label, the correct information, and packaged in a manner that will be safe to the produce and also safe to the end user. Thank you so much. That is the end of my presentation.
So thank you so much, Miss Louisa, for your presentation. I've really learned a lot from the presentations that have been done, and I'm also hoping that we are all learning as well. We have a third presenter from Kentrade. We are done with the technical bit, where we talked about the presentations were about compliance with FCM regulations, and we have also looked at KEBS. We now want to have a presentation from Kentrade, from Madam Evelyn Wamai. She'll be presenting on the role that Kentrade plays, especially in the trade facilitation platform, and how they are supporting the sector. So I can see already she has put up her presentation, and I'll ask Evelyn to take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Kelvin, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this honored opportunity to be part of this team as Kenya Trade Network Agency. Kelvin, do you mind confirming whether my presentation is on full screen mode?
We can see your presentation. Kindly
is it on slideshow? Okay, it is okay now?
Yes, very well.
Okay. So, all right, so thank you so much. And I know we've learned, as Kelvin has said, we've learned quite a bit from KEFIS and also from KEBS on the various requirements. And we've even drilled down into the specifics, into packaging and etc. And I think that's quite something to learn. So mine will be very brief. And as Kelvin has mentioned, we've done the technical components of it. Now we're looking at the system components insofar as this the FCM is concerned. But quite briefly, let me just talk a little bit about ourselves, and that's just simply because, and for the benefit of those of us in the meeting that perhaps may not know who Kentrade is, we are a state corporation under the National Treasury, and were established under the National Electronic Single Window System Act of 2022. And our key objective is to facilitate trade, and we have done that by implementing the National Electronic Single Window System in Kenya. And that was done from 2013, and up to now we have been being able to onboard various stakeholders onto the single window system. Many of them are from the private public sector, including Kenya Revenue Authority, KEBS, KEFIS, who are with us here again this morning, and many others who play significant roles in the value chain, in the cargo and the transit logistics value chain. So specifically for this morning, ours is to look at how then can we facilitate this in terms of this FCM and our role really. And of course, for us, we are providing the single window system. Now, we have implemented a platform that allows exporters to process their documentation. And of course, our role is specifically assisting exporters comply with international phytosanitary regulations, including the ones that are related to the FCM. Now, how are we doing this? Critical is looking at digital documentation, and then KEFIS integration, and of course, trade intelligence. And those are the key items I'll be focusing on this morning. As we have had, and some of you may know, because you've been working with KEFIS. KEFIS is part of our stakeholders, and one of the thing is the key areas we are looking at is, of course, is streamlining export compliance, and that's been a big discussion here. Compliance is very critical, even in the era of competitiveness, even in the export industry. If we do not comply, then we find ourselves out of the market, or we remain incompetitive. We cannot be competitive at all. In fact, we actually will be dropped out because there are markets that are very, very strict and stringent when it comes to specific requirements on the products that land or arrive in their countries. So that's one of the things that we've done. We have an automated phytosanitary certificate via the single window system, and of course, then we're looking at real-time tracking of these inspections. We are facilitating specific measures for pre-export inspections, of course, again, via the KEFIS integration. That allows us to be able to do that. And then the pre-clearance documentation, of course, this is a process that we are educating exporters to ensure that by the time they're getting to they process the documentation early, so that you're not getting any surprises. The biggest thing has been delays. Sometimes it is maybe due to the fact that perhaps you may not be aware, or even if you're aware, then by the time you're compiling and packaging all your documentation, it is taking too long. So you're not, and then you're finding that this was not done. So really, we are encouraging, have your documentation in good time, and then over and above that, make sure that these documentations are submitted in good time. Then again, there's of course the risk-based inspections, faster clearance for compliant shipments. We already know that we already have implemented a risk management module within the system, but that's really mostly to ensure that we are managing risks. We are ensuring you're flagging any product that has an issue. But prior to that, make sure that documentation is in order way before it is submitted through the single window system. That of course helps you in reducing the cost of delays. The back and forth in itself is not only does it reduce your delays, it's also very, very costly. And then there's this is another one that has talked. And then the second last bit there is a supporting market access. So trade analytics, identifying FCM sensitive markets, training programs. So from our system, you're able, due to the data that we process, we are able to track and analyze a kind of markets that are sensitive. As we flag within the system, we'll know which markets are sensitive. So it becomes very easy for us to share that intelligence. We also have a BI tool that helps us in zero into specifics. So those are tools that we are using currently to be able, and that's information that can be shared with exporters so that they're able to be very sensitive about the kind of requirements that are needed. Additionally, we have been running training programs, and this we've also been doing together with other partner government agencies to ensure that our exporters are adequately equipped, and that means you have the information that you require to be able to put together documentation in the right way, the right format, including the necessary requisite documents, so that your chances of exports are higher, elevated, so that you're not experiencing delays, your cargo is not rejected, etc. And so we do this through various training programs. We have undertaken quite a number in the counties, educating our exporters, MSMEs, so that they become aware of what's currently happening in the market. Again, we also have our analytics that we've mentioned, and that's something that it needs to be taken care of. But also allow me to also mention, we have implemented the InfoTrade portal. The InfoTrade portal is a portal that has documented step-by-step procedures on the various products that we have. Say, for example, various regimes. If it's an import or export, we have documented specific products that in that system, so they're able to get and access information. And with each documentation or each step we have documented, we are very keen to ensure that we have engaged the various stakeholders, so they provide the correct information that we capture there. So when you need to know, when you visit that portal, it will guide you. It will explain to you the specific certificates or permits that you need to wire in advance before you even start, as you're thinking of putting your documentation together, so that you're not caught unawares. So that's something that we have done. And then also provided, of course, a system that allows all traders to lodge all their documents end to end. All right. It's an online platform that can be accessed in the privacy of your four walls, whether that's your home, your office. As long as you have that infrastructure in place, then you should be able to access that information and be able to act as you are required to. Then, of course, our system, of course, eliminates the need to submit physical documents. We have worked with various stakeholders. Our key is to streamline the export process. As we are working on the import process, export process is something that we are really very passionate about, to ensure that we are elevating we are improving our performance insofar as exports are concerned. We're also able to, through the single window system, to track the status of your documentation submission. So you're not operating blind. You're very clear every step of the way. You know how far your documentation is, what are the specific requirements that are needed, what are the next steps that you need to undertake as you are working on that process. So in a nutshell, that's really what it is that we do. There are various document benefits that we, of course, the system will allow for you. Of course, it's a single entry point. It has reduced, our system has reduced the complexity and time and cost, because again, in addition to just having the system available, in terms of information provision, we have also provided the InfoTrade, as I mentioned earlier. It has reduced time and cost associated with preparing and submitting export documents, of course, by you're using a system, so it's quite fast. It has improved the level of transparency and, of course, predictability in import and export procedures, reducing opportunities of corruption. So you're not operating from a place of you have no information. It's very, very clear. And of course, last but not least, it has provided access to information on trade regulations, procedures, and empowering exporters to make very, very informed choices. So with that, mine was not too big and too long. Thank you so much. And back to you, Kevin.
So thank you so much, Evelyn, for that presentation. Kentrade is playing a very key role. I don't know whether you know that Kentrade is implementing the trade facilitation agreement under the World Trade Organization by making sure that export documentation is digitized, issuance of export licenses and permits is seamless. They are playing a critical role in ensuring that also export procedures, rules of origin, and all other information, including legal requirements to export, are well known to stakeholders, to participants. You can access this information on their trade portal. If you go to infotrade.go.ke, there is a wealth of information on how to export your products. At this time, we are approaching the end of our webinar. I want to bring in Keproba, our agency. We have the Expo Osaka, which is going on in Japan as we speak. It started in April this year. It will be ending in October. We have prepared a week of Kenya's activities in the month of June, and we are looking to have a flower activation at the Expo. And we have a brief presentation to our stakeholders so that exporters who are looking to the Japan market and the neighboring countries or the entire region can have an opportunity to do market linkage and possibly generate more orders and thus increase exports, Kenya's exports. I don't know whether Beatrice is in the room so that she can share her brief presentation. Beatrice?
Mugendi, I can do the presentation.
That's fine. Please carry on.
Just give me a minute. Uh, Can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. Kindly put it into slide mode. Very well.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
I'll just quickly take you through this. It's going to be a very short presentation, so you can follow through. So let me start by Kenya's participation at the Expo. We are currently ongoing, and we are presenting ourselves, or representing ourselves. The Kenya Pavilion is representing itself through the theme Kenya Rising from the Bottom Up. And we are trying to leverage on the Expo to be able to showcase Kenya's vibrant nation, which is very rich in cultural heritage, committed to driving sustainable development. And our pavilion proudly highlights Kenya's dynamic progress, blending rich cultural heritage and cutting-edge showcases that are showing sustainability and global impact. Our vision is to inspire the world with Kenya's innovative solutions and sustainable practices. So part of what we are doing at the Kenya Pavilion, is focusing on delivering our, grassroots kind of economic empowerment for communities, driving sustainable leadership in Africa's climate change, and various conversations that are aligned to what we are positioning at the Expo, and also allowing our visitors to be motivated and act in a more sustainable kind of culture when it comes to what we are positioning at the Expo. We are seeking to spark actionable insights and sense of responsibility among our visitors to contribute positively to their own lives and communities at the World Expo. So these are the SDGs that we are focusing on: good health, gender equality, affordable clean energy, decent work and economic growth, climate change, industry and innovation, and the rest. So this is how the pavilion looks like. It's a very small pavilion. It's 53 square meters. And so you can see this, the space itself is so tiny, and therefore we are looking for other opportunities where we can be able to support our stakeholders to have visibility of what they would want to showcase at the Expo. So we are trying to showcase more about our culture, provide screens where we can be able to show a lot of content on the various industries or sectors. We are also looking at projecting a lot of the content on the screens that are provided, and also look at provide an interactive platform where visitors can be able to engage with the heritage, cultural opportunities, and also maybe sample some of the products that we have in the pavilion. So we are doing a lot of sampling, that is the tea, coffee, nuts, and also provide an opportunity for the flower sector to also see how we can be able to partner together and work together to create visibility for the flower sector during the Kenya Week activities. So Kenya's flowers, we are the third large producers of flowers. We've been surpassed by Colombia and Ecuador. And the flower activation at the Expo Japan is meant to allow Expo participants experience the fragrance, love, and passion and affection of the Kenyan people bring to the world. So millions of flower stems originating from Kenya lighten up people's world all over, and we want to surprise Expo participants with a rose or summer flowers that blossom all year round. So how do we want to do that? We want to do that by free grown in Kenya pop-up carts around the Expo vicinity, and this will be done on the 24th of June during the Kenya National Day. engage audiences through I'm sorry for Valentine's, it had already passed, but it's still giving the spirit of love around. Also show, have a picture booth where people can take selfies, have a Kenyan Business Forum and B2B sections, and also allow flower sector to have participate in our media briefing. So we are looking at providing, if you can be able to provide flowers for us or donate some flowers that you can be able to take to Expo Japan. We see how we can be able to work together with you to facilitate the shipping of these flowers, provide cold storage, and also now look for an arrangement of the flowers. What we can be able to work with you is provide a platform where we can hyperlink your company profile in our website, use your logo or your communication material in our newsletters, posters, participate in our PR campaigns, and also pitch for speaking opportunities for your company in our business forums, and also allow you to brand or co-brand with us during the business forums, and also partner with us during the Kenya Week celebrations. However, these particular partner opportunities are not cast on stone. We can be able to tailor make some of these opportunities to best suit your needs when you travel to Japan. So Mugendi, that is it for me right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen, for that presentation. It is meant to help us to take advantage of that opportunity, and we hope that flower exporters or people who see Japan as a potential market for export to participate in this activity, and to ensure that you do your networking as much as possible. We have different activities in the Kenya Week starting from June 21st to 24th. Kindly take advantage of those activities for your networking and to generate orders. We are coming to the end of our webinar, but before we do that, it's important that we hear from you through a question and answer session. I will now turn to our participants who may have raised their hands and request you to put your question. I will also request the facilitators the people who did the presentation to kindly remain so that we can respond to the questions that are going to be raised. I can see Mr. Jackson Banya's hand is up. Could you kindly go ahead and ask your question? Jackson? So as we continue, we have a satisfaction survey, which has been put in the chat section. Kindly click on the link and provide us with insights on what you think we can improve on the next webinars that you'll be having in the next time we shall be meeting. Please respond to that survey so that we can improve on our webinars. Give us more insights. So we have feedback from Masi Gatere, who says, very informative session so far. How about issuing certificate of participation to the attendees? I suggest Keproba can issue the certificate on behalf of the various facilitators. Maybe, Maureen, if you could respond on the support that you are offering participants who want to attend the expo.
Sorry, please repeat the question. I caught that question at the end.
Okay. So we have a participant who is asking, how about issuing a certificate of participation to the attendees? I suggest Keproba can issue certificate on behalf of various facilitators. I didn't get that quite clearly. Maybe Rebecca, Madam Rebecca maybe can give a
Thank
clarification.
you very much, Kevin. The question is noted, and of course, we have all your contacts. We'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Rebecca. I'm trying to look for questions in the chat section. Can we send the presentations? The presentations will be shared after the webinar. Please, if you have a question, just raise your hand. So there was a question from Francis Mwangi. Francis asks, Eric, what is the trend so far for FCM rejection interceptions? Are we winning? So Mr. Eric Were, if you're in the room, kindly you could respond to that.
Thank you so much. Now, from the time, I'll talk just about the time we started implementing. When we started implementing the system approach, so far we've only had about 2 in interception on FCM. And that one means that we need to put in more effort so that we don't have any, because we just got them at the initial stages of the implementation. And with the more tougher requirements that we are putting in place, I believe we are only going to win if we work as a team, and all of us are going to implement and follow the protocol as it is, and also give us more ideas on how to improve the same protocol to make it better and better. Then we'll be sure that we are winning we are winning this war. But at the moment, we still need your data for us to be able to know whether we are winning or not winning, because that data is what will give us the way forward. And it's the same data that we can be able to prove that the system approach is working or not working. So give us the data, we analyze the data, and then we can be able to give good response to that. But interceptions cannot be the only one that you can gauge yourself whether you are winning or not winning. It has to be interception, we have to get the rejection, and we also need to get your data within the greenhouses. How many catches are we having of the FCM? So that we can know whether this war is being won or not. Because in the greenhouse, you look at the data. When you started implementation, what was the number of catches? Are we going progressively downwards, or we are not reducing the what we normally call the resident population? So if you provide us with that data, we can be able to evaluate ourselves better and objectively. Thank you.
Asante sana Bwana Eric. We have another question also for you. And the question is, does KEFIS have scheduled training programs for FCM or any other pests so that farmers can schedule appropriately?
Yes, we are supposed to carry out every quarter, but remember all these trainings, they require some facilitation in terms of budgets, and you can only be able to start planning properly once you have the resources with you. But still, as exporters, you can be able to organize yourself in the regions. The region where you are, whether you're in Naivasha, Nakuru, Timau, Nairobi, so that we can come up with a common calendar that is agreeable to all of us and say by this time we should be able to be training, and the topic to be handled will be, we also give a topic, and that way then we'll be able to move objectively. But as it is today, we only come in to train whenever we feel there is a need to do so. But with your input, we can be able to have a calendar of training so that we do capacity building of our growers and our exporters regularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. I do not see any other questions. I'm looking to see whether I can see anybody who has raised their hand up. I want to give you an opportunity one last time. If you have a question, kindly, you would want to raise an issue, you could raise your hand so that we respond to your issue. All right. At this point, I would like to thank Mr. Jackson Banya. Please go ahead. Mr. Jackson? Mr. Jackson, are you able to unmute? Yes, please go ahead. Okay, Mr. Van Cleef, please go ahead as Mr. Jackson prepares himself. Van Cleef, I can see you have unmuted. Kindly ask your question. Okay. So if you are not able to hear, you kindly use the chat to raise your question. So somebody is asking, Vincent Labat is asking, installation of vent nets, is it a mandatory activity in the FCMCA protocol? Mr. Eric Query, if you could respond to that.
Okay, now this is the answer that I'll give. As per our protocol, what was discussed and during when everyone was giving their views, and for us to be able to adapt that protocol, that was on in January. That was around I think it was on 6th of January. Many of the exporters requested that we relax on that top vent, and only when you have non-compliance, then it will be mandatory for you to have that particular item being implemented. But for now, the top vent is not mandatory for now. Till we come, when we assess your farm and we find that it being a compensatory measure, it will require us to do something, then you'll be asked to do it, depending on where your location and also depending on the data that you've been able to share and also the measure that you put in place. If you have any compensatory measure that you put in place that can be able to take care of that top vent, then you will be able to prove to us and we'll exempt you from that top vent. But if there are no measures that have been put in place to be able to compensate the top vent, then it is necessary that you implement it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. We have another question for you from Mr. Mureithi. Mr. Mureithi asks, as indicated in clause 2.4.3 FCMSA in Nairobi, we requested FCM scouting data format. It is yet to be shared. Maybe you can provide a clarification.
Okay, we'll share through our group. It's only that we are given and we wanted some more input from the implementers. So maybe in the course of this week, we'll be able to share that format for you to use it. And it will be in an Excel sheet.
Okay, I hope that is satisfactory. Mr. Jackson Banya, it appears we are not able to get you. If you could kindly raise your question in the chat section. Alternatively, if you're not able to, you can send an email to us at enquiries@brand.ke. So at this point, I want to thank our participants, and I also want to thank our facilitators for providing us with very rich information about how to go about interceptions, how to manage interceptions, As Keproba, we encourage our exporters to build capacities around standards and around protocols that can help them to have an edge in the market. I want to thank Mr. Eric Were, and I also want to thank Louisa Okanda and Madam Evelyn Wamai for all the job well done, together with our participants. I understand we have closing remarks, which will be done by Madam Rebecca Mpaye, and I want to ask her to give closing remarks, offer also closing prayers, and give us thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin Mugendi, and everyone for this very insightful and timely webinar on the false coding moth in Kenya flowers. Today's webinar, of course, is aimed at reducing interceptions in flowers. I want to express my deepest appreciation on behalf of Keproba to each of you for your active participation and your keen interest in this vital topic. Our sincere thanks go to our forum moderator, Mr. Kevin Mugendi, who has skillfully guided today's session. We appreciate the opening remarks by our CEO, which were ably represented by Director Maureen Mambo. Thank you for setting the tone and reaffirming our collective commitment to strengthening Kenya's export capacity. To our distinguished speakers, we are truly grateful. Mr. Eric Were from KEFIS, thank you very much for your clear and your practical presentation on the false coding moth system approach protocol, the FCMSA, which is critical for ensuring phytosanitary compliance. Ms. Louisa Okanda from KEBS, we are truly grateful. Thank you for walking us through applicable standards for packaging requirements, which are key elements in maintaining quality across the flower value chain. Ms. Evelyn Wamai from KTrade, thank you very much for highlighting the integral role of KTrade in exports and in supporting the FCMSA through effective trade facilitation. Director Maureen, we are again very grateful for highlighting Kenya's participation at the Expo and the call to action inviting the flower sector to partner with us to create visibility during the various activities that you have presented. To all of you, your inputs have been invaluable in equipping our exporters with knowledge and practical tools to reduce interceptions and strengthen our global competitiveness. So as we proceed, let us remain committed to continuous learning, collaboration, adherence to international standards as we work together to safeguard and grow Kenya's position in the global flower market. Thank you all once again. And as I've been requested, allow me to close with a word of prayer. Father, we are grateful for your mercy. We are grateful for your grace that from the beginning of this webinar, we have seen you. We thank you for the information, for the insights we have received. Thank you for the presenters whom we have prepared for this session. Thank you for every participant. We continue to pray for the entire flower sector and for the nation of Kenya, that Lord, you will grow us all for your glory. We surrender all to you and we give you worship, for we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Asanteni sana and have a very good day.